Hi there and welcome back to the amazing collection unboxing. This week we have a box labeled Breyer, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ponokah, Eemetah, Fighting Stallions, 5 different. We Breyer horse collectors are an interesting set of collectors, and I remember when these were released we went bonkers. So model horse collectors love variations, like we talked about last week with that hog that was stenciled versus non-stenciled. This like hit us right in our wheelhouse. It was like mid 90s, like 95-ish. They released, and God, I can't remember if they were like every 6 months or if they did it like every year kind of thing, but they would release these leopard Appaloosa fighting stallions with like 3 or 4 different Indian markings, patterns on them. So as you can see from these guys, this one's got a scoochy mark along from his head down to his leg. This guy has an arrow on his hip and a sun on his head. So all of the fighting stallions were the same base color, this kind of bay, charcoal black blanket Appaloosa, but they all had different markings. So they're called Ponokah Eemetah, the Blackfeet Indian horse. And then they talk about him, capture a Breyer collectible. They're all the same number. They're all number 897. Like I said, I can't remember if it was, because there was 2 series of them. Like the first series came out and we went bonkers and we just loved them and wanted one of every variation. And then so Breyer went, ooh, we got something popular. So then they re-released them with new patterns. So there was, this is, if there's 5 horses, it was probably 2 different series. We'll see if we see any difference in them. The leopard Appaloosa pattern, the way they splatter spot them, it'll vary from horse to horse, so that won't tell you much about like what issue they were. And I can't remember if they had a different number. But I do remember they were issued twice. Those are my only cards. And they all had different patterns. So we talked about the first 2. This guy has like a flower on one shoulder and then some round red spots on his haunches. And then this guy has, kind of like the first guy, he has that arrow, but instead of in yellow, it's in red and white. And then it's got like an arrow at one end and a splattery thing at the other end. I'm so good at descriptions, aren't I? And then this guy has 2 staples on his front and then this marking down his back. Now I'm looking at him from his off side. There's no patterns on this side. All of the colors were on this side. And just like looking at him, they're all pretty similar. Like he's kind of light. These 2 are kind of dark. But other than that, I don't see any significant difference between them. So I have a feeling there was more than this. I have a feeling they did like 4 patterns for like either 6 months or a year, and then another couple of patterns for another 6 months. And that set off a whole nother, I think these guys were the first, because then we got the Indian ponies, I think they were called Ichlay, in all the different patterns. And then that trend kind of ran its course, and I can't remember if they've done it again since then. But I remember when these guys came out, we were just like, ooh, variations! And your stores would have, of course, that was when we used to go into the actual store to buy horses. So my store might have 2 of these guys and none of these guys, and then I'd have to find a friend that I could trade with. So this was very fun. I had a couple of them. I'm not a big fan of the Fighting Stallion mold, so I didn't have to collect every single one, but I did have a couple of these guys because it was so much fun just to go into the stores and find them. So this is, we'll call it a semi-complete collection of the Ponokah Eemetah Blackfeet Indian horse, with 5 different marking variations of them. And there might be more in some of the other boxes that I open, so we'll find out. We might end up with a complete collection when we finish these boxes. So I hope you enjoyed that. It was a quick week. We'll see what we find in the boxes next week. Thank you.